And we're back! Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's Ryan Miller checking in with GST's Your Question, My Answer, episode number 51 today. We break into 1-rep max testing, talking about its necessity, talking about its safety, and whether or not you even need it at all for your training goals. Let's get into the information. Here we go. You know, everybody seems to want to know, how much do you bench? How much do you squat? How much do you deadlift? And the truth of the matter is the majority of people that ask these questions are people that have not been training that long. They're usually beginners, and they believe that lifting weights is all about finding out how much you can do one single time. In reality, how much you can do for 1 rep is of very, very little importance. Knowing that specific number down to the pound is of very little importance. Now, I find that the more experienced a weightlifter gets, the less they give a crap about whether or not they know their actual 1-rep max on any lift. The bench press, the squat, the deadlift. They don't really care how much they can lift for 1 rep. They have an estimate, you know, that in their head they believe they roughly know where they're at, but they realize that 99% of the time it does not matter. So who does it actually matter to? It matters to the competitive powerlifter, because this person is actually competing in a contest where 1-rep max wins the contest. It's the guy or the girl that can lift the most relative to their body weight that wins that competition. And so for them, the amount that they can lift one time, or that 1-rep max, is obviously extremely important. Now, for the ego lifter who simply wants to prove a point to themselves or their friends, how much they can bench, how much they can squat, deadlift, or row, those guys, unless they're competitive powerlifters, they are doing it purely out of ego, and it's actually a pointless activity, because whether they are trying to grow, whether they are trying to increase their strength, or whether or not they're trying to train for fat loss, 1-rep max testing does not need to be part of that equation. Now let's get into the actual mechanics of 1-rep max testing and slowly move that into the safety of 1-rep max testing. When you 1-rep max test, what you have to do is you have to get to the point where you're holding enough weight that you can actually just do it one time. That's why it's called 1-rep max testing. In order to get to that point, you have to be loading weight onto your body, and you have to load enough weight to hit the maximal amount that your body can carry and actually complete a rep with. And many times you load it to the point where you can't complete a rep, because otherwise you would not have found your true 1-rep max on that prior set. So when you get to that point, focus tends to break down, because you begin to think that all you're supposed to do is move the weight, get it from point A to point B, no matter what. And focus can break down. Now, when focus breaks down, form breaks down. And when form breaks down, when you are overloaded or maximally loaded with weight, you can guess what's going to happen. If you produce a weak link in that form chain, it's going to break. And by break, it means that you break, your body breaks. If you don't have to put your body in that risky position for your training goals of strength training, growth training, or fat loss training, I just have to ask you, why would you do that? Why would you put your body in a position where you could potentially be out of the gym, unable to lift for months? You could actually experience an injury that could cause you pain for years to come. And so to me, I'm all about training smart and training effectively at the same time for your particular goals. So if you are not a powerlifter and you are not going to be entering a competition where 1-rep max testing is the basis of that competition, I recommend staying away from 1-rep max testing any exercise, because it's just not necessary, and it unnecessarily increases the risk factor of your training sessions. Since I'm preaching the fact that you don't actually need to know your true 1-rep max unless you're a competitive powerlifter, I need to clarify that, as I mentioned in a previous video, I do believe that high quality programming is partially composed of a 1-rep max percentage-based progression scheme of some type. There are many types, and 1-rep max percentage-based progression is a valuable training concept. Now, you would think that since it's 1 rep maxed based, you would actually need to go through that 1 rep max, that risky 1 rep max testing process. And that's actually not the truth, because there is a safer way to go about it, and it's what I recommend 100% of the time to my clients that are not competitive powerlifters. Now, the way to do that is you can actually use a 1 rep max estimation formula. And that formula uses the weight that you can move for more reps than 1 per set. Generally, if you're finding that weight that you can move for 4 to 6 reps, and then plugging that weight along with the number of reps that you complete, either 4, 5, or 6, into a reputable 1 rep max estimation formula, what that's going to do is it's going to give you a number that you can safely call your actual true 1 rep max. And that's okay, because if it's off a little bit, that's okay. The continual goal is that you should be progressing over time. So with every new cycle, and when you recalculate that 1 rep max through the 1 rep max estimation formula, if you're progressing it over time, and if your goal is continual progression over time, it does not matter what your actual 1 rep max is. It doesn't matter whether or not you know that you can walk into the gym and pump out a 315-pound bench press. If the estimation says you're around 315, that is what you should use for your 1 rep max percentage-based progression scheme. Knowing that specific number and taking the risk to test for that specific number is just not necessary. Let's get into another point about 1 rep max testing and whether or not it's actually needed or necessary for goals that are centered around strength gain, hypertrophy, actual growth of your body and muscles, or fat loss. The short answer is that 1 rep max testing, meaning that you're performing single rep sets with the maximal amount of weight that you can lift for that single rep, is not necessary for any of those 3 goals. When you're training for strength, you don't have to be training for 1 rep max strength. You can train for low rep strength. You can train for medium rep strength. You can even train for high rep strength. And obviously, you want to be able to build up your near maximal strength, because that's a great foundational part of high quality programming, is trying to increase strength in the low rep ranges. What that's going to do is it's going to allow you to have more strength for your medium rep work, meaning more volume in that rep range, and more strength in your high rep work. Again, meaning more volume in that rep range. Now, as we know, volume is a huge driver of hypertrophy or growth. And so strength training in the near maximal strength range does have its benefits. But the key there is that you're training in a near maximal rep range, not a single set rep range. So you're not doing 1 rep sets. You're doing sets of 3, 4, 5, or 6. That's considered low rep training, and it helps to increase that near maximal strength. And so for strength training, it's not necessary. Now, obviously for medium rep training, where the major focus there is less near maximal strength gains, but more growth progress, 1 rep max testing clearly is not a necessity there. I think the reasoning for that speaks for itself. And it even speaks for itself more with high rep training, say that 20 rep range work. You definitely don't need to be pushing 1 rep max weight for 20 reps, because 1, that's impossible, that's not going to happen. And 2, it's counterproductive. 20 rep training requires the lighter weights and not that heavier 1 rep max training weight. So whether your goal is strength training, growth training, or fat loss training, 1 rep max testing is not necessary for either of those 3 goals. So I've talked about numerous reasons why 1 rep max testing is not necessary. Now, if you really want a 1 rep max test, you need to make sure that you are very, very comfortable with the exercise that you're 1 rep max testing. You need to have that exercise mastered. You need to be fully confident that you are focused and that you will not allow your form to break down. You will not compensate, try to search out momentum through other body parts. You're not going to twist. You're not going to turn. What you're going to do is you're just going to either lift the weight with proper form or you're going to back down. That's the mindset that you have to go into if you need to 1-rep max test for your ego, or if you need to 1-rep max test in preparation for a powerlifting meet. So those are points to keep in mind if you must 1-rep max test. And I would rather mention those points than just to completely delete them from this video, because no matter what, no matter how much I tell people that 1-rep max testing actually is not necessary for the majority of people's goals, people are still going to 1-rep max test. I mean, let's be real. There's still going to be those beginners in the gym that aren't as knowledgeable as they should be or as they will be in the future, and all they care about is their 1-rep max test. So these are the people that I'm speaking to right now. Make sure that you stay focused, stay safe with your 1-rep max testing, and in time, you will come to realize that those 1-rep max tests really weren't necessary. Although fun, they were risky and they weren't necessary. Now, everybody likes to speak their mind and give their opinion, and I truly appreciate that. So if you disagree or if you agree with me and you want to talk further about 1-rep max testing and the content of this video, feel free to email me at ryan@growthstimulustraining.com. You can text me at 919-671-8585. You can always message me, look me up on Facebook under Ryan Smith Miller, and of course you can comment on this YouTube video. If you would, please subscribe to this channel for daily knowledge from my brain into yours. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Tomorrow, I will probably be doing a YQMA either from the road or from my house again. We have a long trip to go and pick up a new dog. We're getting a French bulldog named Lucy, and she is going to be a smaller counterpart, a great complement to our boxer Louie, who's actually sitting over there on the couch right now. You can't see him, but he's chilling there, and he's actually just taking a nap. So that's our goal for tomorrow. It's a big day for my wife. She's super excited about the dog, and I'll be sure to get some pictures up and some videos up, and obviously include Lucy and Louie in future GST YQMA videos. Thanks again. I appreciate your views. As you can obviously tell, he's quite excited about getting another dog and having to share the attention. Right, Louie? You excited about that? Exactly.